Welcome, everybody. Maybe to start things off, we'll just go in a row, and you guys can introduce yourselves and your affiliation with this great film, Gabriel.
I'm Lou Howe. I'm the writer and director.
Rory Culkin. I play Gabriel.
Ben Howe, one of the producers, and I'm also Lou's brother.
I'm Luca Borghese. I'm the other producer.
Okay, so maybe to start things off with you, Lou, you can talk maybe a little bit about the origin of Gabriel and sort of how it started.
Yeah. So the real sort of seed of the idea was my experience having a close friend diagnosed with a mental illness when he was in his late teens. And I just started thinking about his sort of experience of the world and started thinking a lot about his situation, and out of that grew Gabe and this sort of fictional story.
And how long was the process from when you sort of came up with this idea to actually filming it?
It's hard to say when I actually came up with the idea. I mean, he's been in my life for a long time, and he was diagnosed probably I don't know, almost 15 years ago now. So I actually started writing the script, though, 4 years ago. So it's been sort of rattling around for a while, but script to premiere was 4 years.
And Rory, maybe you can talk a little bit about how you came into this project.
Yeah, I just I got the script through my agency and all that, but we met before I read for him and kind of talked about how scary the world is and yeah, we were just kind of on the same page, and I thought I think I got it, and yeah.
And as we'll see in a clip shortly, this character is not, I'm assuming, something easy to inhabit for the time that you had to inhabit him. He's a very dark person. What was it like sort of channeling that kind of energy for the course of this shoot?
Well, while we were filming it, I didn't realize he was a dark character, because it was my job to rationalize all of his decisions, and everything he did had to make sense. All of Gabriel's decisions had to make sense to Rory, and it was pretty easy for that to happen. So I never looked at him as a dark character or troubled even. He was, he was just a person, and the people around him were troubled.
Well, maybe before we keep going, we should show a clip just so you guys have an idea of what Gabriel's all about. So maybe we'll roll the first clip. As you can see there, one of the things I appreciated, and I'm assuming a lot of people probably really appreciate about this film, is the authenticity and intimacy created between these three characters portraying a family. So maybe you as a filmmaker and you guys as producers could talk a little bit about how you found these three wonderful actors and how you sort of facilitated this really authentic familial relationship between them as actors.
Just casting process was relatively sort of standard. We had a great casting director who made suggestions, and everyone who's in the movie I had been a fan of. So there were certain people who were brought up who I was immediately excited about, and luckily they all ended up in the movie. And in terms of building the relationship between them, I tried to I did a lot of work with the backstory for all of the actors, trying to sort of build a shared history that everyone was on the same page with, and that doesn't necessarily come out on screen all that often, but I think it sort of informs their relationships, and also just the details, that they all know exactly what they're talking about when something's referred to, or they have their own opinions about things that have happened in the past. I think it just sort of helps enrich the world, I guess.
I guess maybe also it would help that everyone was in New York, and so we had good access to everyone leading up, lots of group time, one-on-one time with Lou, so everyone was very comfortable with each other heading into the shoot.
That was part of it too, just trying to spend time together. For the actors who were playing characters who had long histories together, trying to create a little bit of history between them during prep was a goal too.
I mean, what's the rundown of a film of this size for you guys? Like, what were your sort of the time frame in terms of production and the time you had to put this together?
It took forever. It took the casting process took forever. It took I don't know how long you guys were doing it before I came on board, but we were definitely casting for almost a year, I would say. We spent a lot of time talking about how the three members of the family would relate to each other and how we could sort of build a family with the actors that we loved. But from the time that we all sort of hit the ground in New York, and I was totally late. I was 2 weeks late. You guys had 4 weeks to prep it, and then we shot it in 4 weeks. So the actual process of making the movie, once we'd gotten everything in place and figured it all out, was extremely fast.
Yeah, we started prep, I guess, in soft prep January of last year, and then started bringing on crew in the beginning of February, and we were shooting by beginning of March.
No, we shot middle of February, remember?
End of February?
No,
Middle, okay.
February
He knows
15th.
better.
Maybe a question for you, Rory. I mean, this is also, as I noted, a pretty small independent film, which is something you tended to navigate, or sort of, you tended to take on these roles like Mean Creek either way, you tend to take on independent films. And what draws you to a film, and why did you choose this project?
What I really liked about the script was I had no idea what Gabriel was going to do next. I couldn't predict anything that was going to happen, and I was constantly having to keep up with the story. And that's a big thing for me. And it wasn't, they chose me. I don't know. I wasn't. Yeah.
All right, before we watch one more clip, maybe you could all talk about one thing with regard to this film that stands out as a challenge for you during the process or of filming it or the post process.
I think in general, sort of a bigger picture filmmaking challenge that's always on my mind is authenticity, and that was kind of my number one goal of making the world feel real and the characters feel like people. So I would say that was sort of the thing I was most focused on throughout the whole process, and I'm proud of that aspect of the film, I think.
You want it from all of us?
Yeah.
Well, it's an independent drama, which I think is always a challenge to get made. So it was a process of getting grant-making organizations behind the project, building legitimacy, finding investors, and for me that was the original and biggest challenge. First, an independent drama with a first-time director. Do you agree?
Yeah, I was less involved in that piece of it than you were, I think. I think the thing that I noticed was the amount of interrogation that we all had to do about every minute that we were going to spend on set, because those minutes cost so much money and required so many people that we spent a tremendous amount of time beforehand really questioning every decision that everyone on the crew was making, so that we could make sure when we landed on set we weren't doing anything extra or doing anything that was vague or not considered. And just being that specific about every moment of the movie I thought was pretty challenging, but kind of fun also.
Rory, did a specific challenge that comes to mind?
I guess the challenge for me sort of came afterwards, because playing Gabriel, I became incredibly sensitive, and then afterwards, it took a while to wear off and kind of become, not as sensitive. Anything anyone said to me would hurt my feelings tremendously for no reason, and I finally connected it to goddamn Gabriel.
let's talk a little bit about the film before we go into a second clip.
Sure. So it's about a young man, Gabriel, who is kind of fixated on a girl from his past. So he's convinced this group home where he lives that through good behavior that he should get to go home and visit his family for the weekend, but in actuality he's got other plans to go find this girl. So at the opening of the movie, which is the first 20 minutes of the movie are his first attempt to find her that fails, and then he goes home, and the first clip, the knife clip, is kind of indicative of what his family life is like, and after that dinner, he basically gets tired of being there and decides to go find her again. So, and then this clip happens.
So the film had its world premiere here at Tribeca. It's been like really well received and deservedly so. What's it been like watching it, especially as a first-time filmmaker, watching it with audiences for the first time?
It's been amazing. It's been really exciting, and it feels like it's been a long time coming. So it's a relief, I guess, too, that the way people are reacting. I find it a little bit painful to actually watch it with an audience, but the way people want to talk about it afterward is definitely really gratifying, and feels like we accomplished what we set out to do. So it's nice.
I mean, I still I care a lot about Gabriel, the character Gabriel, and I'm still very protective of him. So it's very strange for me for all these people to be watching him, and I just really hope that they don't think he's a bad person or anything. And it seems, I don't know, it seems like they think he's all right, and that's what I was worried about. Yeah.
No, I feel like not surprising, but just it's been pleasant and exciting, and the festival has treated us incredibly well. The press has been great, and
I think the other thing that's like why
Yeah,
it's hard
take
to
it.
sort of, I'm going to take it, why it's like sort of hard to answer the question is, I don't know how you guys felt, but the first time we watched it with an audience, I like was having trouble just watching it. Like the room became much more interesting to me than the movie. And not that I don't love the movie, I think it's great, and I'm really happy that we did it. But watching the people became this like whole other weird experience in the room. I don't really know what that means in terms of your question, but I guess everybody's specific reaction is really interesting, mostly because you live with the movie in like a tiny little box for like a year, and you have no idea what anybody else is going to think. So I feel like everyone's reaction is slightly surprising when you first watch it with people.
Anyway, so maybe let's talk about what's some advice you could give to first-time filmmakers who are trying to make their own first film right now that you've gone through this experience.
Yeah. I mean, general advice I think is just to persevere as much as possible. That there's so much disappointment and rejection, no matter who you are or what you're trying to do, that it's very easy to get discouraged or feel like you need to kind of wait for someone to pick you out of the crowd to give you permission to make a movie. But what I learned the hard way that I had to do is just try and make some progress every day, basically. And often that meant that sort of my expectations of what I wanted the thing to be had to change. But as long as I was moving forward, no one could sort of take that away from me, I guess.
And for you guys as actors and producers, was something you learned from this film that was sort of new to you in your careers that you could put forward into the audience in terms of advice?
I wouldn't say this is brand new because I've worked with people who I love as friends and respect, but this is like the group of people I've worked with who are closest to me, and most comfortable with of any project I've worked on, and I think that's I don't know, just incredible. It makes it not feel like work. So if you have that opportunity, take it.
I
guess
think
that's my
the most important thing for me was working with people who weren't afraid to tell me when I had a terrible idea, and I wasn't afraid to tell them when we had a terrible idea, and that you could have a giant fight with, and it was kind of like, then
Yeah.
it was over and it was fine.
We don't have a lot of politics between us.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, I guess something that I just realized is, every decision that your character makes should make absolute sense to you. Yeah, I mean, just all about making sense of any decision, even if it's totally irrational. It has to make complete sense to me, and it has to be the right decision for me. And just to sort of, and internalize things and hope some of it comes to the surface. And if it doesn't, oh well. But just don't phone anything in. If it's not there, and then it's just not there.
And we're going to open it up to questions from the audience. So,
Hi. Can you guys comment on the script to screen process and when you were ready? Like, how much time did you spend away from the cameras, and how much did you spend in front of cameras, flushing out the screenplay and the relationships you referred to?
Sure. Do you mean improv by fleshing out the screenplay on camera?
Yeah, rehearsal, improv, and
Right.
then before camera versus, with cameras.
Right. Well, like Luca was saying about every decision, we were very limited on time. So we did a lot of prep work. And we did rehearse. We didn't rehearse the entire movie. We rehearsed certain scenes, but we did spend a lot more time talking about the family history and the dynamics between the characters, really going through each scene from a sort of actor's motivation kind of approach, really talking about the script more than actually rehearsing. So what I was trying to do is give or create with the actors a kind of foundation of reality to the situations, and then sort of let them jump from there in front of the camera. So I don't think there was a ton of improv, but the scenes were pretty. I hope to keep the scenes kind of alive while we were shooting, if that makes sense.
I know, Rory, you were saying that you didn't really want to think about the character so much as like be the character, but at the same time, did you read up on the condition either before or afterwards? And since you come from a family of brothers, did you have any feedback for them, or did they have feedback for you?
Well, yeah, I mean, Lou, recommended some books, and we went to a place called the Fountain House. It's Midtown Manhattan, I think, and it's a place for people, struggling with mental illness. There's nothing medical about the place, so it's just we got to go there and talk to some of the people that were dealing with the same things that Gabriel is, and yeah, I mean, I almost didn't want to know anything medical at all. Just wanted to hear them out, and there was one guy that stuck out, and he couldn't trust his own hands. So in the film, my hands are always in my face because I can't trust them, and just like little things, I didn't want to hear from their families because in my mind they're wrong. Gabriel's mind is the family's wrong, and so yeah. And as far as the brother thing, no, you guys deal with it. I don't know. You guys work that out.
Hi. My question is, I guess, for Lou. You said it was based on someone you know, the story? Not sure.
Not really. The idea to write the story came from my personal experience with a friend, but the story is totally fictional.
Okay, so does that friend know about this movie, or did he watch it?
Yeah, he's aware of the movie. He hasn't seen it. His family has, though. And
What was the response?
they were, I think, quite moved by it and were happy with the sort of sensitivity of the way the story is told. So, which was, a worry of mine and was a nice response to get.
Hi, so my question's kind of an easy one. I was wondering if this is only at Tribeca right now, or is it going to be in theaters and video on demand soon?
Better be in theaters. Yeah, it is only playing at Tribeca now, and actually, there are no other public screenings, but there are distributors who are watching the movie, and we hope that one of them will put it in theaters sometime soon.
Hey, this is probably for Lou. I was wondering if you could talk, or maybe all three of you guys, a little bit more about just the process of getting it made. I know you mentioned grants and then going out for funding, and sort of along with that, when you were putting together your crew, I don't know your background, how much stuff you've shot before, but if it was a combination of really wanting to work with friends you had worked with up to that point, or really hoping to work with new people who could bring things to you as a first-time filmmaker that you would really benefit from their sort of knowledge and background and all of that.
Right. The most sort of pertinent part of my background is did go to film school, but out in LA, at AFI. But I'm from New York, and these guys, everyone else who worked on the movie still lives in New York. So I guess the first part of your question, coming out of AFI, I had made a short that did fine, but wasn't all that similar to Gabriel, and I knew this was what I wanted to make. So the grant-giving organizations were really kind of the first step of building credibility and sort of legitimizing the project. So Sundance and a place called CineReach here in New York and IFP, who have all stayed involved with the project since very early on. They were the first ones to sort of come on board, Ben and I, and then those organizations sort of put us into the legit playing field, I guess. And then in terms of crew, I didn't. Most of the people that I had worked with before, shot stuff with before, were film school friends in LA, and I definitely wanted New York, people who had worked in New York before, and people more experienced than me. Really, I think I'm probably the least experienced person on the crew, and that was. I didn't plan that, but in a way, I think that was something I was subconsciously trying to do, of really hiring people that I, cast and crew, people I really respected, that I got along with, but that I was impressed by, and I could kind of learn from and sort of support in what they do, and let them do their thing well. So. That was sort of my, philosophy of building the team, I guess.
I'm always interested in like the writing process and the revision process, and then jumping to the editing process as a kind of the finalization. I'm sure it's hard to actually let it go, having been in your position before. So could you just comment a little bit about that in terms of how you came to reconcile those two very challenging processes?
Sure. Well, I guess just to give you a brief overview of the writing process, I think Ben and I had talked about just sort of the idea of our friend who had been through something similar, about creating a character in that position. But we weren't sure what that meant yet, and I started by writing first-person journals from the point of view of a character who became Gabe, and those sort of took on a life of their own, and the family grew out of those, and kind of his situation in life sort of came out organically then. And then it was actually Ben's idea to start the script process by just taking that character who I had sort of built through the journaling process and just putting him in random scenes without a plot in mind. And that we did. I think there were several drafts like that, basically, where the premise was the same, where he was trying to escape from his family, but there was no goal yet. So there were a few drafts like that, and then once I realized that he was looking for a girl, then the structure sort of figured itself out. And in terms of how the edit relates to the script, there is such a clear goal for him throughout the movie, and it's not real time, but it's 2 days, so there wasn't a lot of major sort of structure changes that were even possible, which was kind of a relief, I guess. So it was really, I think maybe there was I know there was one, but there might have been 2 scenes that were in the script that aren't in the movie, but it's pretty much just tightening and shaping, pace and performances in the edit.
Can you comment on, so that there was no, I'd love to go back and shoot that scene?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. No, I mean there were plenty of regrets, yeah. But
What about gifts? Was there did you have a geese wrangler, or did you write that?
No.
Did you discover that?
no, that was fully discovered. I mean, because of that train station location, we rewrote him running through the woods to him running through a field. And then when we showed up to shoot, there were a bunch of geese that way. So we told him to run that way, and we kept the camera rolling.
So I have 2 questions. The first one is, where did you get the music from? If it was friends that you knew or stuff like that. And the other one is, what kind of camera did you shoot with?
Maybe.
I can answer it. Yeah, the composer is a guy named Patrick Higgins, who is he's New York based, and he went to Columbia, and he lives up in Hudson. And he's an incredibly talented guy. He hasn't done that much film scoring yet. I think he's maybe scored 1 or 2 other films, but he did an amazing job for us, and he did literally all the music in the movie. There's nothing that we licensed or anything. He just wrote it all for us. And we shot it on the Alexa, which is a fantastic camera when you're trying to make a movie for really cheap.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being here, and definitely look out for Gabriel when it hopefully and surely comes to theaters soon. So, anyway, thank you guys all for being here. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, and thanks for coming.